It's Lunar Eclipse Month. Get ready for a May that boasts both a wonderful blood moon and an array of morning planets all month long. Welcome to Observing with Webb for May of 2022. We've got, like I said, a lunar eclipse, which we're going to get into very soon, and we've got a lot of morning planets as well. And basically all of them you can see at least at some point, all of the planets. So let's get going. Let's talk about those planets.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
All right. Well, the month basically starts off with a little bit of Mercury still up there just for a little bit longer, maybe like 1 week or so. You should be able to pick it out on May 2nd or maybe even May 3rd, but it's really only going to be there for a little bit longer, maybe the first week. It's not going to be too far above the horizon after sunset, but you should be able to find it. Okay. But yeah, first week, Mercury after sunset, look to the west-northwest, that area. Okay. Now, the rest of the planets for the month are going to be in the opposite direction. We're looking kind of east, and we're going to have to change the time to, let's go to sunrise about. And I want to show you all of the planets for the month right now and how they are set up. Now, I am recording this on the 2nd, so we're going to start there. Notice that off in the east-southeast, you have Venus and Jupiter right nearby each other. Okay. And then we've got Mars to the right, Saturn to the right of that. In fact, I believe there's Venus will be about 15 degrees above the horizon, and Mars will be about 15 degrees to the right, and then Saturn will be about 20 degrees to the right of that. Now, what happens throughout the month, let me make this just a little earlier so it's a little darker, and then go day by day. What you'll notice is Venus sort of moves to the left, Jupiter moves toward Mars, and then mid-month, you have almost an even split with all of these. But then as the month goes by, you've got Jupiter getting closer and closer to Mars. Oh, and there comes the moon. I'll talk about that later. Okay. And then on May, I believe, 29th, Jupiter and Mars will be less than a degree apart. So that's going to be a good time to get those two in one telescope shot. And then after that, May 30th and 31st, now Jupiter sort of switches places with Mars, right? So that's what we got going on. And, oh, look at that. Mercury's kind of popping in there for a little bit, but I don't foresee that being visible, at least not till next month at least. Okay, but there we go. We've got all 4 planets there doing a little dance. Nice thing is that you can see this any morning of the month. Okay. And notice they spread out. So Saturn is now, I believe, like 45 degrees or something away from Venus. So they are spreading out throughout the month. Okay. And that's basically it for the planets. Go out there and make sure you check out Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn off in the mornings.
And a bunch of other stuff. And a bunch of other stuff. And a bunch of other stuff.
So talking about the moon, we start off the month with the evening crescents, looking nice after sunset. Then we move to the first quarter moon on the 8th. Then the week after that will be those evening gibbous moons, mostly lit up, which I just learned gibbous is a weird term, but it was, I think it's Greek for hump, or like on a camel. That's, I don't know. But anyway, that's where it comes from. Then you've got on the 17th, the full moon. After that, you've got the waning gibbous when it's mostly lit and rising later at night until the 22nd, which is the last quarter moon. And you've got the morning crescents after the 22nd and the new moon on the 30th. So we're starting off the month and ending the month with some pretty dark skies. And then we come to the best part of the month and why I'm really putting, my main motivation behind this video, which is the lunar eclipse. Okay. So Couple things. It's going to be on a Sunday night. Not the best for starting off the work week real tired, but it's better than some other options here, okay? So Sunday night into Monday morning. You notice I have it on May 15th here. And what's going to happen is, see, the moon goes around us in an orbit, and from our perspective, it follows this green line called the ecliptic, and it slowly does that. In fact, let me show you what happens throughout the night. The Earth's shadow stays in... actually, the Earth's shadow kind of moves. And the moon passes into the Earth's shadow that's being cast out into space. Okay? And then it comes out. Okay? It's basically passing by us in its orbit. So, now you notice that there are two parts there. You have this outer line and this inner line there. Oh, just had to change the perspective there. Now this lighter part, this is called the penumbra. That's a lighter part of the shadow. You can actually do this at home. Have a light on and then take a ball and put it next to like a wall and see the shadow that the light casts on the ball. And then start moving the ball away from the wall, and you start seeing that there's sort of a outer portion of the shadow that's a little darker, and there's an inner portion which is really dark. So what happens is whenever you're inside this portion of the shadow called the umbra, that's this inner part, if you were in there, you cannot see the surface of the sun. But if you are in what's called the penumbra out here, you can see at least a tiny portion of the sun. So you still get a little bit of sunlight coming through. Okay, let's go on to what we're doing. So what's really going to happen, let me center the moon. So that's where we're looking. The coolest part about this is you're watching the moon pass through the Earth's shadow, and you're literally witnessing all the light, or the light, from all of the sunrises and sunsets on Earth at the same time. You don't need a telescope for this, although it would make it even cooler. But just make sure you have a view of the moon. Okay. Actually, let me take this out a little bit. Now, notice that from my perspective here, the moon is only about 18 degrees above the horizon. So it's not going to be too tall, not too high in the sky. In fact, actually, let's go a little bit toward partiality. That's 20 degrees. So if you have a big tree and you're close to it, it might block it out. My suggestion would be to go out, actually, the day before, the 14th, and go back about an hour, and you'll notice where it is, but it's about 5 degrees higher. So go out on the 14th, see what the moon does. Make sure you can see it all the way past midnight, okay? And just know that that's kind of where the moon is going to be, except it's actually like 5 degrees higher. So think that it's going to be 5 degrees lower on the 15th, okay? All right, let me get back to the basics here. Okay, so when does the actual action start for us? Well, when the moon enters that penumbra there, that is not when the action starts, okay? The penumbra is actually really not that dark at all. You might be able to see that, but I'm betting you won't. I can barely find it myself. But what's going to happen is at 10:28, right there, the moon actually enters into the umbra. This is when the partial phase of the eclipse starts. That's when you start seeing the moon, the shadow, sort of munch away like a kid eats an Oreo at the moon. Okay, so right about 10:28 is when the partiality starts. Okay, then we're going to have about an hour for it to go through that partial phase and finally be totally engulfed in the shadow, which is at 11:29 p.m., at least Eastern Daylight Time. Your time zone will vary, okay? But this is when the moon is fully inside the umbra, okay? The only light that's hitting it, and you would think that, hey, it's in the shadow, you can't see anything, right? You would if the Earth didn't have an atmosphere. But the Earth does have an atmosphere. And what that atmosphere does is it lets some of the light pass through the atmosphere and actually bends toward the moon. And the atmosphere also basically scatters away the blue, the violet, the green, and the yellow. And all that's left that can make it through the atmosphere is the orange and the red. And that's what makes it to the moon. And then it reflects off the moon's surface back to us, which is really cool. And that same process is what we see when we see the sunrises and sunsets. So you are literally seeing all the sunrises and sunsets on Earth at the same time. Okay? Now, we are going to have totality then for 85 minutes. Okay, 85 minutes starting at 11:29. And the greatest eclipse is at 12:12. That's when it's right in the middle, as far into the middle as it's going to get. It kind of grazes this actual middle with the outer part of the moon. The very middle of the shadow, it's tough to get one right down the middle, but we'll take what we can get. And then a total of 85 minutes after totality starts, right at 12:54. The moon leaves the umbra, and then the partial part starts all over again, or ends. And then you're done. Boom, right at about 1:56 a.m. The moon is totally out of the umbra, and the eclipse is over. Technically, it still has to get out of the penumbra, but we don't worry about that. We're just looking at what's visible and awesome, and that's that part. So I say you can safely go to bed at 2 a.m. I mean, you can go to bed whenever you want, but if you want to see this, go to bed at 2 a.m. Okay? Yeah, and at that point, the moon is still only 28 degrees high in the sky, so it's going to be not too tall. Okay? But anyway, get out there with a camera, get a good zoom lens at least. I'd be surprised if any phone cameras actually get a good picture of this. They're getting better, but not great. Okay? All right. Well, good luck. Best wishes for no clouds. Now, what about I was telling you before, let's take a look at the mornings and take a look at the moon passing by those morning planets. Well, let's go through that. Okay? Let's go to the 21st. Okay? May 21st. In the morning, you've got that lineup of planets, and you've got the moon coming in from the right. Let's see, then that is on Saturday the 21st. On Sunday the 22nd, it's only about 5 degrees below Saturn. So if you can't find Saturn, use the moon on this day. Okay. And then on Monday morning, it's between Saturn and Mars. And what happens over the rest of the time is it keeps moving through. It's then below Mars and Jupiter. Then it makes a straight line with Mars and Jupiter. Then it gets kind of close to Venus, okay? On Thursday the 26th, you have a nice crescent, and it's about 10 degrees away from Venus, okay? And if you're super lucky, if you're super good, you might be able to find this very thin crescent moon to the left of Venus on the morning of the 27th, okay? But that's all out there for you to see. So all month you can see the planets, but this basically last week or fourth week you can see the moon pass through them. Okay. Yeah. So that's it for the events. We're basically looking at a lunar eclipse, the conjunction between Jupiter and Mars on the 29th, and just a whole bunch of morning planets out here throughout the entire month. So good luck, and let's talk about some constellations.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
Now, if we're talking about the constellations that you can see, after that baseball game is over and the stars are coming out and the lights are finally turned off, I would recommend looking for Leo first and foremost, because it's pretty high in the sky. And you've got this backward question mark. Here, let me go to mid-May. It's a little bit higher in the sky. You've got this backward question mark here with a right triangle off to the left over here. Okay. And basically, you just kind of look south-southwest and look almost straight up. And there it is. Now, what you can also do is sort of just go back around. Oh, there it is. Now this red dot is the zenith. That's a point straight above you. So above you, but a little bit behind you, is the Big Dipper here. This asterism of 7 stars. That's easily recognizable. And then you can use the handle of the Big Dipper to arc to Arcturus, the brightest star in Bootes. And then you can follow that arc to Arcturus and then speed on to Spica, the brightest star in Virgo. Okay. Wonderful. Just quick little glance there. Just 4 constellations right in a row. And go to skymaps.com, get a good sky map for the rest of that. Okay. You can find more than just that out there. But let's say you're getting out there before work. So let's go 5 a.m., something like that. You are going to be able to see the summer constellations coming in, okay? And some spring ones, like Hercules and Lyra and the Hercules cluster. And if you look pretty much straight above you, see, there's Lyra, the harp, with the brightest star, Vega, not the brightest star ever, but the brightest star in that area of the sky. And you see this little parallelogram shape over here. It's just absolutely gorgeous right there. And you've got Hercules over here, this little keystone asterism over there. In there is also a star cluster that you can find, M13, and it's just right on this upper right part of the keystone. Beautiful little cluster of stars that you can maybe see with your naked eye, but telescope or binoculars will really, really help you with that. Okay? And yeah, that is it for the month of May. I really hope you get out and see that eclipse, even just a little bit of it. It's definitely well worth it. And yeah, I'd like to wish you very clear, dark skies for the month of May.